Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of The Curtain Call. And in today's episode, I'll be talking to you about the 2018 Swedish film Border, or as some people on the internet like to call it, guys, this is the strangest, weirdest film I've ever seen. They don't even speak English in it. So I'll start off by saying you should probably know as little about this film as possible going into the film. It's the way I watched it, and I feel like it's the best way to experience this film. That being said, I feel like you do need to go into a bit of spoiler territory to properly talk about this film. So heavy spoilers ahead, but I'll give a small little spoiler-free review before I get into the nitty-gritty details of the film. It's not great, it's not the next Let the Right One In, but if you like your fantasy dark, gritty, and very Scandinavian,
and don't skimp on the doodle munch.
But no, seriously, check it out, it's definitely worth your time. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's get into full spoiler territory and explain what Border is all about. It's directed by Ali Abbasi and stars Eva Melander and Eero Milanov. Border tells the story of a disaffected customs bodyguard who's not quite human. Tina's job is to smell out suspected fiends in customs for drugs and weapons. She possesses a heightened sense in detecting human emotion and seems to have sympathy for humans, but is definitely marginalized for her hideous appearance. She lives a rather somber existence with her lover, who's a pathetic homebound dog trainer. Ironic since Tina is almost treated like another pet of his. She does have a decent friendship with a young couple in the neighborhood, but Tina seems to be looking for more meaning in her life. During her customs job, she comes across a pedophile ring involved in sex trafficking and pornography. Due to her unique abilities, she is asked to assist in the investigations. Alongside this story, Tina meets a mysterious biologist called Vore, who looks uncannily like Aphex Twin, who shows her a new appreciation of her appearance and her abilities. The life she could have led if she was not abused by a society that fears her. So Border is quite dark. It's not a light-hearted film at all, folks. Not surprising since it comes from Swedish cinema. Seriously, what is it with Swedish cinema? All of them are dark, gritty, doesn't paint a very nice image of the country. I've never been, so I'm not having to go at Swedish culture, but seriously guys, check up on your cinema. It's quite dark. Not the kind of thing you think of when you meet these people. As you can probably tell from the plot, there's a lot of heavy subtext. It can be heavy at times, but you can read into it as much as you want. It's definitely a film with a lot of deep social issues at the core of it though, in regards to exploring marginalized communities and the definition of beauty. Well yeah, the latter certainly rings true with Vore teaching Tina the beauty of being different. It's just an impressive fantasy film that takes a look into the life of trolls. But I don't think it's essential to look too far into it to enjoy the film as it is. It's there if you wish to look and analyze it in that way. Much like Let the Right One In did with vampires, Border takes a really brutal, realist approach to how trolls would live and cope in a society, a human society, and the challenges that would come with that. For Tina, she's a gentle being who, despite knowing and experiencing all the hate and judgment that the world can bring, doesn't feel obliged to act in malice or aggression towards the human population. Vore is of the opposite mindset, seeing only the evil of man and believing humanity has nothing to offer and only takes away. He explains to Tina in one scene, humans are just parasites that use everything for their own amusement. He speaks about the freedom for the race of trolls to move away from human life and embrace their true selves. There's a really good moment in the film where he takes Tina into the forest and teaches her to embrace her animalistic urges by eating fresh larvae. It's a really good scene, and Vore is just deliciously tempting as he almost acts as like the serpent to Tina, to just release herself and embrace the freedom of being animalistic and being a troll. Speaking of which, both actors Eva Melander and Eero Milanov really pull off their respective roles, especially Melander, who gives a very grand performance under all the makeup. According to the actors, it took about 4 hours to apply, and it's very well done. It's especially impressive when a lot of the first half of the film has barely any dialogue. A lot of close-ups with the heavy makeup, and yet she does a great job showing her frustrations. There's a great scene between Tina and her human father as she starts to debate whether she really is his daughter. It's raw and tragic, and she's simply magnificent in this scene. I do feel the scene could have gone on a bit longer as it is a turning point for Tina, but it was great. Milanov does a great job too as the more troublesome troll. There's a great moment in the film where he visits a buffet and embraces his hunger by just taking a bunch of food, and he just responds by cheekily smiling at the other guest. It's really, really good. I'm a huge fan of the mystical elements to the film. It's very much like Let the Right One in that fashion. Not surprising since it comes from the same Swedish writer. Border is actually based off a short story by the same writer as Let the Right One In. One really interesting factor is the inverted sexuality of the trolls, which comes with an exciting revelation with a delightfully aggressive sex scene. And not much else to say about it, but check it out. It's pretty raw. There's a really nice folktale feel to the entire film throughout, actually. I respect that for the first half of the film, that they don't want to identify the creatures as trolls. I even feel they could have gone through the film without even identifying their race, but that's a creative decision I understand making. But here's the problem I have with Border and why I don't think it stands up as well as everyone that has seen it has claimed it has. It sort of meanders and falls apart, I think, in the later half of the film. The reason I say this is I feel like the mystical, fantastical element of the first half, which is really strong, gets kind of pushed to the side for the more crime procedural element of the story, which, I'll be honest, is kind of predictable, and I sort of knew where it was going. Not to say they can't have this in the film. It could have been an effective way to humanize the fantasy element, but the way it's handled leaves a lot to be desired. It's sort of predictable where it's going, and it's generally a bit lame. I sort of was hoping it was going to go in a different direction, but yeah, I was a bit let down by this. I do very much like the ending though. It's a rather bittersweet conclusion to Tina's storyline. Okay, so from a more technical standpoint, Border doesn't do anything amazing, but it's a decent looking film. I feel like they could have gone in a different direction visually, or something a little bit more interesting than they ultimately do. It's a generally decent looking Scandinavian drama, but it's the kind of look you would expect from this kind of genre of cinema. There's nothing really amazing about it, and in fact, the images that I really remember from the film are actually from the marketing posters, which is, yeah, kind of saying something. The forest scenes are probably the most visually creative, where the lighting gives these sections a real mystical feel. But yeah, it's nothing extraordinary. I understand they want to go for a more grounded look to the film, but yeah, I feel like they could have gone in a different direction. I'm a real fan of the minimalist score though, and it's used really effectively, and in moments that really need it. It's not used all the time. Take notes, Hollywood. So yeah, I do like Border. I think it does something really interesting for the fantasy genre. It has some really great moments that incorporates trolls into the human world. The performances are wonderful, especially from Melander, who's a fantastic main protagonist. And it leaves enough subtext for audiences and more general film buffs to chew on for repeat viewings or more kind of deep and analytical looks into the film. One thing I find strange though is how it's considered to be quite an unapproachable film. I don't really understand why people are saying this. I suppose the reason people are saying this is because it's not in English, it's Swedish, and it's about monsters. But I don't think it leaves anything hugely for interpretation, and I think it's a generally easy film to follow. It's going to put anyone off. I think it's going to be its dark tone. It's very much like Let the Right One in that way, and if you didn't like that, then you probably won't enjoy this. But if you do enjoy dark Scandinavian fantasy, it's definitely worth checking out. I do feel like it does get led down by a weak third act, as it does include the crime procedural element of the story, which is by far the weakest element. But that being said, I think it's a strong film. I probably won't watch it again, but it's worthy of one watch. So yeah, those are my general thoughts on Border. I think it's good. I would highly recommend Let the Right One In if you have not seen that. That's one of my favorite films of all time, and the best vampire movie ever made in my opinion. Definitely worth checking out. That is an excellent film. So I just want to say thank you for everyone for watching the video. I hope you got something out of it. I hope you go out and watch Border, or even Let the Right One In. I'm hoping to do these video reviews at least once a week. I'll be also posting my website very soon, which will include written reviews as well, so you'll get both throughout the week. I won't just be relying on video reviews. I want to be posting as much stuff as possible because there's a lot to talk about out there, and I'm really, really excited about this whole project. So please remember to like, subscribe, and I'll give details about when the website is published, and you guys can have a look and have a read. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the future with the Curtain Call. Peace out, guys.